Sycosis physical manifestations, planets and houses. In the Sycosis Miasm, physical manifestations include abnormal growths, chronic inflammatory conditions, and swelling. These conditions arise from excessive or abnormal activity in the body's tissues, reflecting an overactive, unregulated state that can lead to stagnation and chronic disease. Growth of tissue, warts, polyps, tumors. Sycosis often results in abnormal tissue overgrowth, leading to conditions like warts, polyps, cysts, and even tumors. This unchecked tissue expansion is a core physical trait of the miasm. Key planets. Jupiter governs expansion and growth. When afflicted, it leads to abnormal tissue growth such as warts or tumors. The excessive growth is a reflection of Jupiter's unchecked expansive energy. Moon governs bodily fluids and tissues. When influenced by Rahu or afflicted by Jupiter, the moon can contribute to fluid retention and abnormal tissue growth, including cysts and tumors. Rahu governs abnormal and exaggerated growth processes. When Rahu influences bodily tissues, it results in excessive or unusual growth, such as warts, polyps, or even cancerous formations. Its chaotic nature drives the body to produce abnormal overgrowths. Key houses. Governs the physical body. Afflictions by Jupiter or Rahu can cause growth such as warts or skin tags on the body, reflecting tissue overactivity. Sixth house governs health and disease. Afflictions by Rahu, Jupiter, or the moon in this house lead to chronic health conditions involving tissue overgrowth such as tumors or polyps. Eighth house, associated with deep-seated internal conditions. When afflicted by Rahu or Jupiter, this house can point to hidden growths such as internal tumors or cysts, which may go unnoticed for extended periods. Conjunctions. Jupiter plus Moon leads to tissue overgrowth, especially in the form of benign growths like cysts or warts. Jupiter's influence on the Moon's control of fluids can result in abnormal fluid-filled growths. Rahu-Jupiter amplifies abnormal tissue growth, resulting in exaggerated and sometimes pathological formations like tumors, polyps, or warts. Rahu plus Moon can cause fluid retention and abnormal tissue development, such as cysts or excessive skin growths, often in areas related to the skin or internal organs. Inflammatory conditions and swelling. Chronic inflammation and swelling are common in psychosis. The body responds excessively to stimuli, leading to persistent inflammation and the accumulation of fluids in tissues or joints. Key planets. Mars governs inflammation and heat. When afflicted, Mars drives chronic inflammatory processes, causing swelling, redness, and heat in affected areas. Jupiter exaggerates growth and expansion. When combined with Mars, it amplifies inflammatory responses, leading to excessive swelling and prolonged inflammation in the body. Moon controls bodily fluids. When afflicted by Mars or Jupiter, the Moon can contribute to fluid retention and swelling, especially in soft tissues and joints. Key houses. Sixth house governs chronic illness and inflammatory conditions. Afflictions by Mars, Jupiter, or the Moon can result in chronic inflammation and swelling in the body, particularly in response to persistent health issues. First house ascendant represents the body's overall health and vitality. Afflictions by Mars or Jupiter can manifest as inflammation and swelling in different parts of the body, often related to overactivity in the immune system. Eighth house governs deep-seated conditions, particularly those that are hidden. Afflictions here by Mars or Jupiter can cause inflammation deep within tissues or organs, leading to chronic swelling and discomfort. Conjunctions. Mars-Jupiter causes excessive inflammation and swelling, particularly in tissues or joints. Jupiter amplifies Mars's heat and inflammatory properties, leading to chronic conditions involving swelling. Moon-Mars. This combination drives fluid retention and swelling, particularly in areas prone to inflammation. The native may experience swollen joints or edema as a result of excessive fluid buildup and inflammation. Rahu, Mars, creates unpredictable and exaggerated inflammatory responses. The individual may suffer from severe or erratic swelling and inflammation, often in reaction to chronic or underlying health conditions. By understanding the planetary influences and house placements related to growth, inflammation, and swelling, we can better understand the physical manifestations of psychosis. These conditions reflect the overactivity and chronic nature of the miasm's influence on the body, leading to persistent, uncontrolled physical processes. Chronic rheumatism and arthritis. In the Sycosis Miasm, there is a marked tendency toward chronic rheumatic and arthritic conditions characterized by joint inflammation, stiffness, and pain. These conditions arise due to the accumulation of excess fluids in the joints and a lingering inflammatory response. The nature of psychosis, with its overactive and stagnant processes, results in long-term difficulties in the joints and bones, making elimination of toxins from the body more difficult, thus worsening joint-related ailments. Key planets, Saturn, governs the bones and joints, as well as chronic, slow-progressing conditions. When afflicted, particularly by Rahu or Jupiter, Saturn causes stiffness, degeneration, and long-lasting pain in the joints, leading to chronic arthritis or rheumatism. Saturn's influence slows down recovery, resulting in prolonged stiffness and immobility. Mars represents inflammation and governs the musculoskeletal system. When Mars is afflicted, it drives chronic inflammatory conditions, such as arthritis or rheumatism, causing pain, swelling, and joint discomfort. Mars adds heat and activity to the affected areas, making the inflammation persistent. Sun represents the bones and vitality. When the Sun is afflicted, especially by Saturn or Rahu, it can lead to weakened bone structures and joint issues. Chronic conditions like arthritis often arise from the Sun's inability to sustain healthy bone tissues when afflicted. Jupiter exaggerates growth and swelling. When afflicted, particularly by Saturn or Rahu, Jupiter's expansive influence causes fluid accumulation and swelling in the joints, which can worsen arthritis or rheumatism by creating pressure and discomfort. Key houses. Sixth house governs chronic illness, particularly conditions affecting health and mobility. Afflictions here by Saturn, Mars, or Rahu can lead to chronic arthritis, rheumatism, and joint degeneration. Persistent inflammation and pain are common, as well as slow recovery from joint issues. First house ascendant represents the overall physical constitution and vitality of the body. Afflictions by Saturn, Mars, or Sun in the first house often manifest as bone and joint disorders, including chronic stiffness, arthritis, and rheumatic pain, particularly affecting movement. Eighth house, associated with degenerative processes and long-standing health problems. Afflictions by Saturn or Mars in this house lead to chronic, degenerative conditions such as rheumatoid arthritis or bone disorders, where joints and bones slowly deteriorate over time. Conjunctions, Saturn plus Sun. This combination leads to bone and joint issues, particularly chronic conditions like arthritis. The native may experience stiffness, pain, and degeneration in the bones and joints, particularly in weight-bearing areas such as the knees or spine. Mars plus Jupiter amplifies inflammatory processes in the joints and bones. Chronic arthritis or rheumatism may occur as a result of inflammation and swelling, with Jupiter's expansive influence worsening the pain and stiffness caused by Mars. Rahu, Saturn, leads to chronic erratic joint problems, particularly related to stiffness and long-standing pain. Rahu's influence on Saturn worsens joint degeneration and bone weakness, creating a slow, progressive loss of joint mobility and increased discomfort. Urinary and reproductive issues. The Sycosis Miasm often results in chronic urinary and reproductive system disorders. These issues involve excessive fluid retention, chronic infections, or abnormal growths within the reproductive organs. In the urinary system, difficulty eliminating waste can lead to chronic urinary tract infections or bladder dysfunction. The reproductive system may exhibit conditions such as polyps, cysts, or fibroids, with hormonal imbalances also contributing to reproductive difficulties. Key planets. Saturn governs chronic, slow-progressing issues in the body, including urinary retention and reproductive health problems. Saturn's influence leads to long-standing blockages or difficulties in these systems, resulting in urinary infections, cysts, or reproductive growths like fibroids or polyps. Moon controls fluid retention and reproductive cycles. When afflicted, the moon can cause excessive fluid buildup in the urinary or reproductive systems, leading to chronic infections or irregularities such as cysts or heavy menstruation. Venus governs the reproductive organs, particularly in women. When afflicted by Rahu or Saturn, Venus leads to reproductive health issues such as cysts, fibroids, or difficulties with conception. Venus's influence also plays a role in hormonal imbalances that can contribute to reproductive dysfunction. Rahu drives abnormal or exaggerated bodily processes, including unusual or excessive growths in the reproductive system. Rahu's influence can lead to the development of cysts, polyps, or other growths, as well as chronic infections in both the urinary and reproductive systems. Key houses. Sixth house governs chronic illness, particularly involving the elimination of waste and health issues related to the urinary or reproductive systems. Afflictions here by Saturn, Moon, or Venus can lead to chronic urinary tract infections, reproductive system disorders, and difficulties in eliminating fluids or toxins from the body. Eighth house represents the reproductive organs, sexual health, and hidden issues within the body. Afflictions here by Saturn, Rahu, or Venus lead to reproductive health problems, including cysts, fibroids, and other abnormal growth, as well as chronic urinary tract problems. 12th house governs elimination and hidden health issues. Afflictions by Rahu or Saturn in this house can result in chronic urinary problems, difficulties with elimination, and hidden reproductive disorders that are hard to diagnose, such as fibroids or endometriosis. Conjunctions: Saturn-Venus. This combination leads to reproductive and urinary issues such as cysts, fibroids, or urinary retention. Saturn's chronic, slow nature causes reproductive health problems to develop over time, often with long-term consequences. Moon Rahu exaggerates fluid retention and reproductive system issues. The native may experience chronic urinary infections or reproductive disorders, such as cysts or irregular menstrual cycles, driven by Rahu's influence on fluid balance. Rahu Venus causes abnormal growths in the reproductive organs, such as fibroids, polyps, or cysts. Rahu's exaggeration of Venus's reproductive influence can also lead to hormonal imbalances and chronic reproductive health problems. By understanding these planetary influences and house placements, we can better comprehend the chronic rheumatic, arthritic, urinary, and reproductive conditions that are characteristic of the Sycosis Miasm. These conditions are driven by a combination of long-term, degenerative processes and abnormal growths that manifest in both the skeletal and reproductive systems.